You've probably played Red Dead 2 for dozens or even hundreds of hours, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot in this game that you just completely missed. And seriously, I'm not talking about random Easter eggs or internet theories, I'm talking about 40 hidden tips the game never actually explains to you. I mean useful mechanics, insane shortcuts, hidden details, and little things that totally change how you fight, hunt, explore the map, escape the law, take care of your horse, and even how you live in the world of Red Dead 2. In today's video, I've gathered 40 tips the game doesn't tell you or that most people just never notice during the campaign. And honestly, after researching and putting this whole script together, I was amazed at how many things even I didn't know. And the best part, this video is completely spoiler free, alright? So even if it's your first time playing, feel free to watch. Because I'm absolutely sure that most people who finished Red Dead 2 don't even know half of the tips I'm going to show you today. So without further ado, let's get to the first one. To kick off the video on the right foot, I'm gonna talk about a hidden mechanic the game never explains: weapon familiarity. You know when you've already bought all the upgrades for a gun, keep it clean, but some bars still stay gray? Well, the only way to boost that status is by using the same weapon a lot. The more you use it, the higher your familiarity gets, improving stats like accuracy, stability, and reload speed. You can track this progress in real time through the game's compendium. You know that moment when a pack of wolves corners you and you panic, not knowing what to do? Well, a tip the game never tells you is that climbing onto rocks basically makes you untouchable. This stops animals like wolves, bears, and even panthers from attacking you, since they won't climb those structures. In fact, this is a great way to land a good shot and get a perfect predator pelt. You probably know the benefits of Deadeye, but maybe you don't know the most broken trick with this mechanic. Whenever your ammo is running low, quickly toggle Deadeye on and off. This will instantly reload your weapon without Arthur having to do the reload animation, which, let's be honest, speeds things up a lot. A lot of people finished Red Dead 2 without realizing you can change clothes pretty much anywhere on the map. Most think you can only do it at Arthur's tent or in hotels, but all you have to do is open the radial menu and go to the horse's clothing tab. Besides changing Arthur's look anytime, this also works to clean him up without needing a bath. And the coolest part is you can set in advance in the wardrobe which clothes Arthur will carry on the horse during the trip, so don't forget to pack a jacket. If you've ever tried to rob a train in free roam, you've probably gotten frustrated with the law showing up in seconds and a huge bounty popping up over your head, a bounty that often ends up being higher than the entire haul from the robbery. But one thing the game never tells you is that the perfect spot to rob trains is inside tunnels. That way the sheriffs almost never manage to reach you, letting you rob the passengers and safes at your own pace without getting any bounty at all. And since we're talking about train robberies, you probably think the only way to open the safes is by using dynamite, right? I thought the same until I found out a tip the game never tells you. You can also open safes with explosive ammo. Seriously, just pull out your gun, shoot the safe, and it opens instantly. So no more almost blowing your face off with dynamite inside the car. Now you'll rob safes with style and no hassle. And admit it, you didn't know that, did you? So if you want to return the favor, the only thing I ask is that you hit the subscribe button down below. About 86% of people who regularly watch the videos aren't subscribed, so if you're one of them, please click that button and help out the channel. I'm counting on you. Red Dead 2 is so insanely realistic that even some real-world tips actually work in the game. One of them is exactly about surviving bear attacks. Imagine you're walking through the forest and suddenly a huge bear starts charging at you. Most people's instinct is to run or start shooting wildly, but one thing the game never tells you is that, in many cases, standing still makes the bear lose interest and just walk away. This is super useful if you want to avoid a fight or wait for it to calm down so you can go for a perfect takedown. One of the most annoying things about hunting in story mode is the carcass limit. Unlike Red Dead Online, Arthur doesn't have a hunting wagon, so usually you can only carry one big animal at a time. But a tip the game never tells you is that you can actually triple that capacity. When you go hunting, bring your secondary horse along. That way, you can put one carcass on your main horse and another on the secondary. After that, just lasso the third animal you took down and drag it to your destination. Even though it's a pretty rough and old school method, trust me, it doesn't ruin the quality of the carcass. In fact, if you want more advanced tips like this, check out my ultimate hunting guide for Red Dead 2. The link will be in the description. You know those mysterious phrases written on walls, newspapers, and other random spots on the map? Well, they're not there just to decorate the scenery. Most of these phrases are actually cheat codes hidden by Rockstar. If you open the settings menu and type in the exact phrase you found, you unlock secret cheats in the game. In this video, I found the code that gives Arthur $500, which, let's be honest, makes life a lot easier. Early in the game, one of the most underrated things by most players is the Legend of the East satchel, and that's understandable since Red Dead 2 never really explains just how insane it actually is. Basically, it drastically increases your inventory capacity, letting you carry up to 99 units of almost every item in the game. Once you craft the satchel, the whole campaign experience changes, so whenever you start a new run, make sure to spend some time focusing on it as early as possible. Besides making gameplay way easier, it also helps a lot with exploration and the compendium. And now that we've covered these 10 general tips, it's time for the next chapter of this video. Unlike the first Red Dead 2 has very few moments where you actually get to duel someone, but a tip the game never tells you is that there's a kind of quick draw hidden in combat. To do this, just stand in front of an NPC and slowly hold the shoot button. You'll notice the screen gradually zooms into the Deadeye view. The moment you fully press the trigger, Deadeye activates automatically, giving you an insane window of time to start blasting everyone. Seriously, there's no more cinematic way to kick off a gunfight in this game. You know those moments when a witness or enemy starts running away on foot, but you don't want to shoot and alert the whole town? Well, in those cases, there's a brutal mechanic the game never really explains. If you chase an NPC with a knife or machete equipped and press the attack button from behind, Arthur performs an instant takedown. And the crazy part is the game has a bunch of different animations for this. Some are quick and others are insanely violent. Once you discover this mechanic, it's hard to stop using it. And since we're talking about witnesses, one of the most overlooked mechanics in Red Dead 2 is the warning shot. You know when you press up on the D-pad and Arthur raises his gun in the air? Well, that actually has a purpose. The game never really explains it, but this move is super useful when a witness is running away and totally ignoring your threats. You know when you keep threatening and threatening and the NPC just ignores it and keeps running? It's insanely frustrating, man, for God's sake. But everything changes when you fire a warning shot first. That way, the chances of the witness panicking, stopping, and giving up on running go way up. But if the warning shot doesn't work, there's still the good old lasso. Most people open the radial menu, equip it, and try to hit the NPC from a distance, right? But one thing the game never tells you is that there's a way faster to catch someone. If you run toward the enemy already with the lasso equipped and press the attack button close to them, Arthur basically ties up the NPC instantly. This is super useful when you're chasing someone up close and don't have time to keep spinning the lasso like crazy. A lot of people think the only way to get the double holster is by freeing Micah from prison in Strawberry, but one thing the game never tells you is that you can unlock the secondary holster way earlier than that without doing a single Micah mission. To do this, just complete the first hunting challenge by skinning 3 deer, the most common animal in the game. After that, you can visit any trapper on the map and craft the much desired secondary holster right at the start of Chapter 2. Honestly, it makes any gameplay instantly better. If there's one mechanic that confuses pretty much everyone in Red Dead 2, it's the bandana. A lot of people think it just doesn't work, since even wearing a mask, Arthur still gets identified during robberies, but the game never actually explains how this system really works. Here's the deal. When you commit a crime wearing a bandana and only witnesses see you, your identity stays hidden. The problem starts when a sheriff or lawman shows up. For some reason, these guys have Superman's X-ray vision and instantly figure out it's Arthur behind the mask. So for the bandana to actually work, you gotta move fast, commit the robbery, and get out before the law shows up. And still on Law and Crime, an insane tip the game never tells you but is super useful is that you can hide in bushes. This comes in clutch when you're cornered with no way out. Just crouch and slip into the thickest vegetation you can find. A lot of times the sheriffs totally lose track of you and start looking somewhere else, giving you the perfect window to sneak away unseen. Believe me, once you learn this, running from the law will never be the same again. A lot of people don't like Red Dead 2's first-person mode, mostly because Arthur holds his weapon lower, kind of like in games like Counter-Strike, but one thing the game never tells you is that you can totally change that experience. If you press up on the D-pad while hunting or use the mouse scroll on PC, Arthur switches to using the weapon's iron sights, and that makes combat way more immersive. Sometimes it even feels like you're playing a Call of Duty set in the Old West. Now that we've wrapped up the combat and survival part, it's time for the next chapter of the video, because there are some hunting, fishing, and nature mechanics that Red Dead 2 just never bothers to explain. Hunting can be pretty frustrating in Red Dead 2. A lot of times you find the perfect animal but have no clue which weapon to use to keep the pelt's quality intact. But there's a super useful mechanic the game never really explains. If you use the lasso on medium or even large animals like deer, Arthur can walk up to them and deliver a perfect knife kill, which totally preserves the carcass quality and saves ammo. Honestly, that's a lifesaver for anyone trying to get perfect pelts for Pearson. After a few hours of hunting, those skinning animations start to get a bit tiring. They're super detailed and realistic, but eventually you just want to grab the pelt and move on. And a tip the game never tells you is that there's a way to pretty much skip the whole animation. To do this, just position your horse really close to the carcass, dismount, and start skinning without moving Arthur. If done right, the animation gets cut almost entirely, and Arthur grabs the pelt instantly. This mechanic is actually so old it even worked in the first Red Dead. Check out the time difference. A lot of people think fishing only unlocks after the mission A Fisher of Men with Jack, but one thing the game never tells you is that you can actually start fishing way before that. To do it, just find a distracted fisherman near a river, sneak up behind him, and use your lasso without being noticed. If done right, his rod will drop to the ground, letting Arthur grab the NPC's rod and unlock fishing early in Chapter 2, which honestly is super useful for anyone who loves exploring and hunting early in the campaign. Still on fishing, there's a hidden mechanic that saves you a ton of time, especially when you're trying to catch the legendary fish. After hooking the fish, most people just keep spinning the stick and reeling it in normally, but one thing the game never tells you is that you can actually speed up this process a lot. While the fish is tired, move the stick up and down repeatedly. If you do it right, the fish comes in way faster toward you. It might seem like a small difference, but after a few fishing trips, you'll notice how much time this saves. Did you know you can actually fish in the game without even using a fishing rod? Yeah, Red Dead 2 never tells you that, but you can just equip the varmint rifle or a bow with small arrows and shoot the fish directly in the water. After that, just wade into the river and grab the fish like normal. And the coolest part is, if you use the right kind of ammo, the fish quality stays intact. This works for both small fish and the bigger ones, so depending on the situation, it literally makes more sense to hunt fish than to fish. Speaking of rivers and lakes, have you noticed how your weapons get ridiculously dirty after you go into the water? That happens because the game never tells you that water really speeds up weapon wear. So whenever you cross a river with a revolver or rifle slung on your back, there's a good chance they'll become almost unusable shortly after. In those cases, you'll need to use gun oil right away to restore their stats. So here's a tip. If you can, avoid going into the water carrying your whole arsenal. And now that we've talked about hunting, fishing, and nature, it's time to move on to one of the most important parts of the entire Red Dead 2 experience. Horses and exploring the open world. You probably already know that in the game's towns you can hitch your horse at specific spots so it can rest, right? Besides keeping the horse in place, this also helps restore its cores. But one thing the game never tells you is that you can do this at pretty much any tree out in nature, and this is super handy during hunts, because if you leave your horse tied up near the area, it won't freak out and run off when a predator shows up. Once you learn this, hunting dangerous animals like the panther gets way easier. This next tip might seem silly, okay? But I swear I was shocked when I found out. For the longest time I always thought you had to get off the horse to brush and clean it. But one thing the game never tells you is that you can actually do it while you're still mounted. Just open the radial menu, go to the horse section and select the brush. And if you're standing still or riding really slowly, Arthur will clean the horse right there. It might seem like a small detail, but once you get used to it, you'll never get off just to do it again. Two things are certain in life: taxes and getting kicked when trying to steal a horse's saddlebag. Everyone who plays Red Dead has been through that, but a tip the game never tells you is that you can pretty much avoid this problem by interacting with the horse beforehand. Just pet and calm the animal a bit before trying to open the saddlebag. If you do it right, the horse stays way calmer and lets you grab the stuff without trying to break your spine in the process. You know when you're leaving a hotel or a saloon and you just don't feel like walking down all those stairs just to hop on your horse? One thing the game never tells you is that you can simply whistle for your horse, jump off the balcony, and land right on its back. And this works in a bunch of spots across the map. Whenever you're higher up than your horse, there's a good chance Arthur can mount up directly. Plus, it makes any exit way more cinematic. One constant in Red Dead 2 is the huge horseback rides, and depending on the distance, it can get a bit tiring after a few hours. To fix that, Rockstar added a kind of hidden autopilot in the game. To activate it, just set a destination on the map, switch to cinematic camera, and hold the gallop button. If done right, the horse will follow the road on its own all the way to the marked spot. And the coolest part is that this also works during many missions in the game. Now I'm gonna share a tip that I'm pretty sure a lot of people never figured out. You know those times when you lose your horse out in the middle of nowhere and have no clue how to get back to town? Well, one thing the game never tells you is that you can actually hitch a ride with NPC wagons. Seriously? When a wagon passes by, just call out to the driver and get close. In many cases, you'll get the option to ask for a ride to the nearest town. And the coolest part is that this fits perfectly with honorable runs since you don't have to steal anyone's horse or wagon. You know those random NPCs that pop up out of nowhere and challenge you to a race? Yeah, for a long time I just ignored all of them. Most of the time the race would go completely in the opposite direction of where I was headed. But one thing the game never tells you is that winning these races permanently boosts some of your horse's stats. And depending on the race, you get extra speed and acceleration bonuses. So once I figured that out, I never ignored a challenge like that again. You're out in the middle of nowhere, a tragedy happens, and your horse goes into critical condition. The problem is you realize you totally forgot to buy a horse reviver. A lot of people think that at this point there's no other option but to put the horse down and take the saddle with you. But one thing the game never tells you is that there's a much bigger window than it seems to save your horse. Depending on your bond, the horse can survive for several minutes before actually dying. Often that's enough time to ride or run to the nearest town, buy a reviver, and get back before it's too late. So before you panic, try to go after the item first. And now that we've talked about combat, hunting, fishing, and horses, it's time for the most important part of this video, the hidden tips that completely change the way we explore the world of Red Dead 2. You know when you're riding through the wilderness trying to find a specific spot and have to open the map every 5 seconds? Usually we pause the game, open the map, then press the exit button twice to get back to gameplay. But there's a crazy shortcut that Red Dead 2 never tells you about. If you hold the pause button for a few seconds, the game opens straight to the exploration map. It's such a simple thing, but seriously, once you learn it, you'll never open the map the normal way again. I spent years and years playing without knowing about this, so when I found out, I just sat there looking like a fool. Are you one of those people who likes to play Red Dead 2 without the HUD to make everything more immersive? If you do, then you know one of the biggest challenges is figuring out what time it is in the game. But one thing Red Dead 2 never tells you is that you can literally check the time straight from Arthur's watch. Just open the radial menu, go to the equipment, and select the watch. That way Arthur takes it in his hand and checks the time the old-fashioned way. It might seem like a small detail, right? But little things like this make the game's immersion even more insane. Did you know the horse isn't the only place where you can change clothes outside the camp? A lot of people go through the whole game without knowing this. The general stores in the towns have lockers in the back that let you access pretty much every outfit you've bought, so no more riding all the way back to camp just to switch a shirt or put together a new outfit. And once you find this out, customizing Arthur gets way more convenient. And since we're talking about clothes, one thing a lot of people don't know is that Arthur has extra customization options hidden away. Inside the wardrobes, you can choose whether you want rolled up sleeves, regular sleeves, the collar open, or fully buttoned up. It might seem like a small detail, right? But it's exactly these little things that make Red Dead 2 feel so alive. And seriously, you'd be surprised at how many people discover this after hundreds of hours and come tell me like they've just uncovered some groundbreaking secret. Another thing a lot of people just don't discover playing normally is fast travel. And no, I'm not exaggerating. I've heard from players who finished Red Dead 2 without knowing you could travel fast across the map. And the reason is simple. The game almost never explains how to unlock this feature. To unlock fast travel, you need to upgrade Dutch's tent at the camp, and only after that buy the map for Arthur's tent. After that, you'll be able to fast travel from almost anywhere out in the wild, which, let's be honest, saves you hours of riding throughout the campaign. Now, I'm gonna share a tip I really wish someone had told me when I played Red Dead 2 for the first time. You know those random requests that camp members make to Arthur? Like asking for a watch, a plant, or some specific item? Well, the only truly missable achievement in the game is tied exactly to those favors. To unlock the Messenger Boy achievement, you need to complete at least 5 requests before Chapter 6 ends. The problem is, after that, there's pretty much no turning back. You'll have to start a new save from scratch, so trust me, whenever someone at camp asks you for something, do them the favor right away until you unlock the achievement. This next tip isn't exactly a game mechanic, but it might be one of the best pieces of advice to really enjoy the game the right way. You know when you're riding through the wilderness and see smoke rising on the horizon? Well, there's almost always a story behind that spot, and whenever you see smoke, go check it out. A lot of times you'll find NPCs willing to chat, share stories, give important tips, or even start little secret events. Other times it could be an ambush, a hostile camp, or just some crazy guy telling you to get lost, but no matter what, there's almost always some kind of interesting experience waiting for you there. In this video's case, for example, I managed to loot rare items, get a horse reviver, and even crash at the guy's camp for the night. And finally, maybe the most important tip in this whole video, manual saves. Seriously, dude, get into the habit of saving the game all the time. This is super useful if you mess up big time and want to go back, like losing a rare horse you got through a glitch, killing an important NPC, or making a wrong choice in a random event. Because unlike what a lot of people think, Red Dead 2's autosave can really screw you over. Most of the time it saves right after something important happens, which stops you from going back unless you have a manual save. So trust me, make manual saves constantly, especially at the start of each chapter. That way you'll always have a restore point to restart any mission, achievement, or decision you missed out on. Now that you know all these hidden mechanics that Red Dead 2 never really bothers to explain, there's one part of the game that goes way beyond these tips and completely changes how you play, hunting. Because getting perfect pelts isn't just about landing a shot, there's the right weapon for each animal, the proper ammo, approach techniques, ways to boost your hunting profits, and a bunch of details the game barely ever explains. That's exactly why I put together a complete guide showing the best hunting weapons in Red Dead Redemption 2 and teaching step by step how to get perfect pelts to increase your profits and get way more out of every hunting session. So click right here on the yellow arrow to watch the video and find out all about it. I'm sure that after watching it, you'll never waste a perfect pelt again. See you in a few seconds. Big hugs to everyone and see you soon. Bye.